QR codes on product that brands can use that can focus their consumers through.
So welcome everybody. Tonight we have with us Deborah Taylor.
I know Deborah since a long time, since she was with LWG. She's an amazing, passionate person out of England in leather compliance. And now she launched her own sustainability leather coalition that is an amazing example of what the market needs. How we talk about sustainability, how we talk about traceability, and what does it mean be sustainable in leather and in tannery. Most important, Nicolo, it's how the tannery can communicate this directly to the consumer.
So it's really good to be chatting with you about this, because I think it's really important. The industry isn't very good at translating what it does to the outside consumer. It's quite good at talking internally, but not really very good at talking externally. And the Sustainable Leather Foundation is a fresh approach to how we consider that. And it's really about being industry-led and very much industry-focused, but bringing that into a line of communication that allows the consumer to understand the integrity and the sustainability that's happening within the leather industry, so that they can make better informed choices in their purchasing decisions and have more confidence in their purchasing decisions. So it's bringing the two ends together in a holistic way that serves a better purpose than just this constant round of compliance that doesn't really mean anything to a lot of people. So it's kind of a brainchild that I've had in my head for a little while. I've spent 5 years working with the Leather Working Group. And during that time, I worked with a lot of brands. I visited a lot of tanneries. I visited effluent treatment plants. I had a lot of contact with chemical companies, so stakeholders across the whole industry. And I listened to what they said about what was missing, the gaps in the industry, and how there wasn't really much cohesion, and people don't really work as collaboratively as they should. And this year, I guess, was a turning point. I think I'd gone as far as I could with Leather Working Group, and I really felt that the industry could benefit from a different approach to what everybody's been trying to do for a lot of years. And, we can't get away from the fact that there are problems in our industry, especially in certain parts of the world, but we can't hide from that. We have to help to support the improvement, and we have to show them the way. So the Sustainable Leather Foundation, for me, is all about improvement and education. It's about inclusivity, including all those stakeholders together in a better way. It's about integrity, providing that integrity for the consumers. And it's bringing all of that together, and almost like having a picture frame and putting all those pieces of the jigsaw into that picture frame together, and then being able to put that out there to the consumer in clear language that they can understand. They don't want all facts and figures. They don't want all the data that goes behind it. They just want to know that they can trust what they're buying. And this isn't about lifestyle choices. You have to start at ground zero, and you have to take away the value choice and the lifestyle choice from the sustainability issue, because there are those out there who may be vegan, they may be vegetarian, they may have specific reasons why they don't want to buy leather, but that has nothing to do with sustainability. So you have to start at the beginning, and then you have to layer it up so that people really understand the integrity of leather as a material choice.
Something that I really loved in your approach about it's the traceability.
Yeah.
Can you share something with us and with the people who are following us?
Yeah, so I think traditionally the leather industry has suffered because it's been quite opaque in its transparency of supply. And there are a number of reasons for that. And I think you have to, whenever we talk about anything, you have to keep balance, because there are social elements that come into play. And in some cultures, there are specific ways of living and working that you have to take into account. But the bottom line is that for brands to be more responsible and for them to give that better messaging to the consumer, they need to know where their supply is coming from. And they need to know that all of the actors in their value chain are being responsible and are doing the best they can to make sure that they produce their material in a responsible way. And that might not just be the leather, that could be the chemistry, you know, making sure that your chemical suppliers are responsible suppliers and they're not doing anything they shouldn't be doing, you know, your product manufacturers, making sure that they're acting responsibly. So it's the whole value chain approach. And I think that if the industry can get more comfortable with the idea of sharing information, then I think it will benefit everybody. And by sharing information, that doesn't have to be that commercially sensitive information, but you need to have somebody that can vouch for the supply chain and say, yes, I know these guys are doing the right thing. And that's what traceability is about. It's not about being scared because you're worried that somebody's going to start using your supplier or get a better price, or, you know, but brands have a big responsibility within that because they have to support their value chains in that process. It's not enough for a brand to just say, you must do X, Y, and Z if you want to work for me. You've got to have a partnership, you've got to build a relationship, and you've got to support them through that process.
This is, I think, Deborah, this is really amazing. I mean, to look, it's the first time I hear someone that is trying to look from the beginning, like from the traceability of the ROI until the final customer. Because these two words has a completely different language. You cannot talk at all the same way. And I actually, myself, I was always trying to understand and to think what's the best way how to communicate with the customer sustainability on leather. Now they start to recognize a little bit the logo of Leather Working Group, the more educated one. But what's your, let's say, what's your secret how to get to the final customer to make them understand clearly what is sustainability in leather? What is a sustainable leather?
I think as far as the consumer goes, we need to have a mechanism where they can access easily digestible information about their the product that they're buying. So what we intend to do is have QR codes on product that brands can use that can focus their consumers through. Now, they don't, as I said before, they don't want all the data. They don't want all the nitty-gritty technical information, but they do want to know that this material has been sourced by responsible producers. And I think if we can do that in a clear, concise language that they understand, then it becomes easier. On the back end, inside the actual accreditation part of it, it will be much more technical. It will, and there will be metrics that sit behind that. And those metrics will enable the brands to make claims around their sustainable practices. And you know, we'll be looking at the usual metrics like energy use, water use, how you treat your effluent at the end of the process, the chemicals that are coming in at the front end of the process. If we can get out to the farms, great. That's a big area. It's a big concern. And that's not going to happen overnight. But we can do all of that with the brands and with the leather manufacturers. And then it's translating all of that good stuff into that bite-sized information for the consumer. But it's helping them to understand that it's not just what we see in the news about, you know, people working in tanneries with no shoes on and no PPE and, you know, waddling around in chemicals. It's not about that anymore. And yes, we do know that there are some areas of the world where that may still be taking place. I think in the 5 years I was with Leather Working Group, I visited a lot of tanneries. I visited tanneries in America, in Argentina, in Brazil, in Italy, a lot of tanneries in Italy, in the UK. And I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, I saw some really great, hang on 1 second. I saw some really great tanneries that are really doing the right thing for the right reasons. I saw some tanneries that were on their journey and that were kind of getting there, but still had a way to go. And I also saw some tanneries that I would not want leather from, you know, but they're the guys we've got to support. We've got to get in there and we've got to help them to understand that they can improve and that it isn't all outward cost, that they will see value coming back in for making those improvements. And actually that's a really good point, is that value added approach, because I visited a tannery in India this year and they'd spent a year preparing for their leather working group audit. And the overriding message that they gave me during the 2 days I was with them was that they had become more efficient. They had better productivity from their staff. The workers were happier. They were taking more control of what they were doing and they felt invested. But they'd also made real savings. They'd made savings in energy. They'd made savings in chemicals because they were being a little bit more efficient about the way they were doing things. So there was a real value added for the whole facility in going through that process and thinking about what they're doing, how they're doing it, why they're doing it, and how they can improve on that. So that value added proposition is really important. The other thing that I've learned is that it's not just the tanneries that need to demonstrate the good work they're doing. And I've been talking with testing houses, I've been talking with chemical companies. They want to be able to have a dashboard approach to show people the work that they're doing, you know, especially if they've got something really good going on. There's no mechanism at the moment for them to let people know what they're doing, you know, and you know, chemistry is almost like a dirty word. From the consumer perspective, it's like, oh yeah, leather, chemicals, ooh, it's not good. But actually, some of these chemical companies are doing really good work and they want to have an outlet. So that's another thing that the Sustainable Leather Foundation will be doing, is giving this dashboard approach to compliance that you can come on board at any stage in your journey and from whatever perspective you're working within the industry. So the inclusivity of being able to join the foundation, even if you don't have compliance for environmental, social, or governance right now, you can join the Sustainable Leather Foundation and you can learn and you can get the guidance and the support that you need to start your journey. And then you can start ticking off those modules as you then achieve them. But what that does is it gives a really transparent approach to the whole thing. And it's not saying, well, hey, you're not up here already, so you can't play with us. It's like, come on, start with us and we'll help you to learn. And part of the ethos within that is not just having an audit standard, it's having templates. So if they don't know what an environmental compliance register is, we'll show them, and we'll show them what it should look like, what data they should be holding within that, how often they should be monitoring that data and updating it, and what the objective of it is. You know, why are they doing it? They need to know why do we need this, you know? So giving them the templates and the guidance that allows them to start their journey, because sometimes that's half the battle, you know. It's letting them know that they can start somewhere. For a brand, that's great, because a brand can then hook into that and say, okay, I'm going to work with this tannery. I'm going to help them to get to where they need to be. And then we can source from them and we can make our great claims about that sourcing strategy and about that relationship building with the value chain.
Let me ask you a question, Deborah.
Yeah.
So in your experience, and you have a long experience now in the leather business, did you see a radical transformation before and after the tannery got certified? And how much a certification is pushing this tannery and the supply chain to make it better in sustainability? Is it a disruptive approach, or it's a gradual approach?
Ooh, I think you've got a mix. I think that's not a black and white answer. Particularly in the early days, I think tanneries only did it when their brands forced them to do it, because I don't think that they understood the value of it.
Yeah.
What you also find is it's a generational shift. So if you've still got, you know, second generation owners in charge that maybe didn't grow up with sustainability in their mindset, then they still need persuading.
Yeah.
The next generations that are coming through, when they take over in those family tanneries, they do know what sustainability is all about. They do recognize it as a natural part of business. So it becomes easier. It becomes easier for them to understand the benefits of doing it. On the flip side of that, you've got audit fatigue. You know, you have tanneries that are struggling with the demands of the brands, and you know, a different audit for this brand and a different set of RSL requirements for brands, and all of those sorts of things. And sometimes, do you know what? They just want to do their job. They just want to make leather, but they want to make leather in a good way. They recognize the need now for compliance. They have to be able to demonstrate their good practice, but they kind of need a better way to do that than what's gone before, I think, with different programs and different certifications that not only take time, but they also cost money, and they also detract from their day-to-day. You know, I mean, talking to Panos at Echo was great. Some of the stuff that he was saying was just like so on the money. And I'm like, how have I not spoken to this guy before? You know, he's exactly what we want. But they're not all like that. So you do have a mix.
You know, Deborah, that we love to engage people that are sustainable oriented.
Yeah.
That's why we had that's why we had Panos in the first time, and then also, you know, one guy, the CEO of Jarno, the CEO of Coronet, that is totally different mindset because it's a PU supplier, but they can give us what we want. We want to talk about sustainability and how these impact your work, your daily life, but also your job.
Yeah, and actually that was really interesting as well. You know, it's a completely different material. We're talking about PU, but he was talking about sustainability within that, you know, and about how he's looking to innovate for a PU that can decompose. You know, it's not about either or, and I think that this is something that we forget. And I have absolutely no issue with an alternative material. What I have an issue with is any alternative material that has to try to detrimentally disassociate from another material in order to make its case. So there's no need to talk badly about leather to introduce your new material, especially if your new material is emulating leather in the first place.
The flip side, there's no way that you cannot talk about bad about PUs or synthetic alternative material if you want to build your case in leather.
Exactly. So whatever material you're working with and your choice of material, that's where you have to start thinking about the sustainable properties of the material that you're working with, not comparing it against other materials or trying to score points of other materials, because there's always balance, and there's production impact no matter what we're talking about.
Yep.
Some will have more impact at the start of the product cycle, some will have more impact at the end of the product cycle. So there's balance. And I think that goes hand in hand with the balance socially, it goes hand in hand with the balance economically, it goes hand in hand with the balance environmentally. You have to weigh all those things up. And there's no one golden solution that is going to be perfect. What we all have is a responsibility to work with whatever material we're using and ensure that it's being produced in the most sustainable way.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Nico.
Everything that needs to be produced, it always have an impact in the environment. The point is that how big is this impact and how can you regenerate this part? And going deeper, let's say, going also into the customer, like your goal is also to communicate to the customer. So right now, if you have a customer in front of you, a final customer of a product, and let's say, how can they recognize that a leather can be sustained, that a leather is sustainable or not? Let's say right now and in 5 years from now.
Right now, it's challenging for a consumer to know that unless you're unless you're purchasing from a brand who has a really, really good program already in place with a really tied up value chain, in which case you will know from their own CSR policies and sourcing strategy.
And you
For
don't
the high street, you don't have that right now. For the high street, most consumers won't even know whether they're looking at a leather handbag or a PU handbag. They won't know whether they're looking at a quality leather product or an inferior leather product. They won't have that consciousness. What I really hope is that in 5 years, once the Sustainable Leather Foundation is established, people will know, because they'll see that Sustainable Leather Foundation trademark on the POS for those brands that are sourcing responsibly, and it will become that symbol of trust for
really looking forward.
Leather. That's the vision. That's the vision, to have that symbol of recognition out there with consumers, and to talk more in the media, you know, so that they do understand, external media.
Here's the media.
This is the media. That's why we want to.
This is the start. And it's understanding that leather can be sustainable. It's inherently sustainable. It comes intrinsically from livestock, which is a sustainable resource. It's something that is going to be there, whether we make leather with the hide and the skin or not. The hide and skin is going to be there. You know, we have a growing population. I don't think cattle production grows at the same rate as the population. We can't do away with cattle.
Either we go all vegan or we will have cattle. That's it.
Exactly. But even if we all said, okay, let's all go vegan tomorrow, how are we going to feed the population if everybody goes vegan tomorrow without doing untold damage to the ground, to the land?
This is going to be a next topic in our conversation, right, Nicola? We need to find somebody that can explain us how to feed the population if we all go vegan.
We don't need
this can be a very big, long, and controversial conversation. I'm not sure we are going to talk in deeper into that.
But the point is, we don't need to do that. We need balance.
Yeah.
So cattle grazing can be beneficial for the land. As long as you don't overgraze it, it does help. It does help with species population. It does help with nutrients in the ground. So biodiversity is very important.
Yeah, so, biodiversity is very important. The problem is that we are destroying the biodiversity. So Deborah, let's close this conversation with what do you think the future is going to be? How do you think your foundation will impact our daily life?
The aim is to have more harmonization, more standardization. We don't have a lot of regulation in the industry, in the leather industry, and that's very difficult to achieve. But what we can do is find a way to create a platform that gives that visibility and that transparency in an improvement mechanism that everybody benefits from. The consumers, the brands, the leather manufacturers, the chemical companies, bring everybody together in a better, more holistic way. And I think everybody will benefit from that.
It was amazing to have you with us, Deborah. I think I learned so much more about traceability and about communication of sustainability. And I'm really looking forward for the next step. And I wish you a really big success with your project, because this really will change and improve our business to be more sustainable, more traceable, and more green. So thanks a lot to be with us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.